The views expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Insights. I'm your host, Lindsay Idaluca, and this week we'll be talking some about the arts and culture here in Northeast Michigan, specifically with the Michigan Arts and Culture of the Northeast. And I'm sitting here with Tim Kuhnlein, who's the president of MACNY. Welcome, Tim. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Lindsay.
Thank you. And can you talk to us a little bit about the history of MACNY? What's it all about?
Sure. MACNY stands for Michigan Arts and Culture Northeast, and we've been established since 2009. A result of some collaborative efforts among some core organizations, particularly here in Alpena, Thunder Bay Arts Council, Art in the Loft, the Besser Museum, the National Marine Sanctuary, and then later the city joined us. The library's been involved in some of our activities, and we reached out to a variety of organizations along the US 23 corridor with the idea of promoting cross-promotion of the arts and cultural organizations in our region.
Okay, and why is it so important to collaborate with different organizations, especially with art?
Well, we focus on the cross-promotion because we're kind of like the billboard for these individual organizations. We're not competing with them.
Okay.
But the idea is that we can do together what no one of us could probably do by ourselves just because of limited resources. But also creating a greater awareness that fosters an inertia about the arts and cultural community that's here and has been here for a very long time. You know, we're not known as an arts and cultural destination, even though we have now identified nearly 100 organizations.
Wow.
Up and down the US 23 corridor from Standish to Mackinac. And many of these organizations have been here for almost a half century. And we provide a lot to our communities. So what we try to do is build on that collective presence, combining our forces and providing resources to promote ourselves collectively.
Okay, and you said that MACNY is kind of like a billboard, and you know, it is obviously it's a wide range all the way from, you know, Standish to Mackinac.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how that works for such a wide
Sure.
area?
Well, you know, our key projects in the past have been the Passport to the Arts, 3 iterations of that. We did the Art Trail Roadmap, and probably what most people see most prominently now still is the series of scrims in downtown Alpena. The other projects were focused on the region, but we received a gift from the city of Alpena and the Michigan Municipal League several years back in response to the success of our Passport project. And we were able to do some of the things like the scrim to pay back the city, to reward the city of Alpena in particular. So recently what we've really highlighted is the value of a website. And we have an arttownmichigan.org website, which was recently merged with the US 23 Heritage Trail. And that's what we're really pushing right now as part of what's called an Art Town Michigan branding campaign.
Okay, and talk a little bit about that, what that is doing for MACNY.
Yeah, it's Art Town, ARTOWN, Michigan. And the idea is that your town is our town. So whether it's Standish or Alpena or Harrisville or Oscoda or Rogers City all the way up to Mackinac, we're all Art Town. And by capitalizing on this branding, we can then pool our resources to emphasize what we're doing individually, but gain this popular image and its relationship, what it fosters in terms of the relationship among us. You know, you see it on the scrims, for example, downtown Alpena, but if you take a look at the arttownmichigan.org website, you'll see the scheme of this branding campaign. And what we've done by combining efforts with NEMCOG, the Northeast Michigan Council of Governments, and Denise Klein's efforts with the U.S. Heritage Trail, is really, again, demonstrated collaboration and all that it can bring by doing together what no one of us could possibly do alone as effectively.
Absolutely, and I can imagine that the internet, really helps to bring all of these towns together. Now, before you guys had the internet, how did the collaboration work?
It was all very hands-on, very difficult to get people to meet at the same place, same time, and from the scope of territory that we were trying to include. And then, of course, a lot of our projects were very hands-on, data-driven, but hands-on, assembling data in a very primitive way for the passport, for example. But now we have this utility of a highly versatile website that not only allows us to communicate with one another, but to have continuous updates to a calendar, for example, that's focused on arts and culture, as well as all the other complementary things like where to stay if you plan a trip to this region. So it provides us a great outreach that we haven't had previously. That's
fantastic. And going back to what you said before, how Northeast Michigan, we have fantastic art here, but we're not really known for it. That must be great for tourists and stuff like that. Have you seen that that's really helped them?
Well, the stats on the website are improving. Arts and culture remains among the top 10 most hit subjects of the Heritage Trail website, which is tied to the Pure Michigan campaign. So we've seen some improvements, but we still have a lot of work to do. And our problem isn't so much advertising what we're doing here among ourselves, it's getting that word out to the outside community, outside of Northeast Michigan, that we are a destination, and we have multiplicity of diverse destinations that are really unique in terms of arts and culture.
Okay, and obviously, we all know that in the big cities, there's art and there's big museums and stuff like that, but what makes art here in Northeast Michigan special?
I think it's very personal, it's very real, it's very connected to the earth and our history. And that's not to say that art and culture in other parts of our state and elsewhere aren't or are any different, but there's something very real about what our individual artists are doing and how we're promoting them. It's just very tied to, I think, a real sense of community.
Fantastic, and I mean that's really what art is about, right? It's it's a personal thing, so that's fantastic, awesome. And have you seen this so far really take off?
Yeah, it's had its ebbs and flows, but what we find from the sort of the broader picture with MACNY is that we've tried to initiate an awareness and a collaboration, and at times we've fostered projects that really try to pull this all together. And then we kind of get exhausted and we have a lull. But what we're finding is that other people carry the mantle. They pick up the pieces and they start doing projects that are fostered from the ideas as a result of the conversations. And we see it with our individual organizations. Probably the best example of this is some of the stuff that's occurred with the Sunrise Artists of Michigan down in Tawas. They've followed up with the Art Trail Roadmap with a separate publication now. We don't publish the art trail anymore, we don't have the resources, but they've picked up with that. It highlights individual artists, the same pattern, the art trail from Standish to Mackinac. And what we're finding is that they've created a center of gravity there that allows them to reach from the south to the north, and we are fostering the gravity from the north here, or the central part of the 23 corridor, and we're bridging the gaps.
Well, that's fantastic. That's what it's all about.
It is.
Well, thank you very much. And next we'll be joined by Christine Witulski, the Executive Director of Besser Museum, to continue. Welcome back, everybody. And right now we're joined by Christine Witulski, and she is the Executive Director of Besser, to get more of a local look on MACNY. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
And can you talk a little bit about how MACNY has helped the Besser Museum?
Well, MACNY has helped by promoting our activities that we do at Besser Museum. And Besser Museum started with MACNY probably about 4 years ago. And the initial intent of it back then was to get local citizens out participating in all of the different activities that the community offered, be it plays, concerts, art galleries, those kind of events. And they actually had a book that they would give to participants, and when you went to each of the different activities, you got a stamp. And then you were able to enter that book at the end of the season into a drawing, and I believe the first drawing was a trip to New York.
Wow, that's
so it was
fantastic.
really to encourage people to get out and be active in all of the cultural activities.
That's fantastic. You were talking before a little bit about how it's not just for tourists, it's for locals as
Right.
well. So can you
Right.
embellish on that?
Well, it's always surprising to hear people say, you know, they haven't been to the Art in the Loft, or they haven't been to Thunder Bay Arts Council, or they haven't been to Besser Museum in years. But then you hear the same people complain that there's nothing to do in the community. And so it's really to make them aware that there's so much going on, and just to get out, be active. The MACNY website has a central calendar that will list all the different activities from the different organizations. And so you can go on at any given time and make your list of activities of things that you want to go do.
Absolutely.
So we have found a lot of people now are coming from out of state.
Oh, wow.
And when they come into the museum, we'll say, have you heard about the Art Trail website or the Discover US 23 Heritage Route? Because the two have combined. And I'm always surprised when people say, yeah, that's how we've heard about the Besser Museum, is from that website.
That's awesome. So it's really working for you guys then in particular, right?
Definitely
Okay.
it is.
Now, I know you touched a little bit, touched upon Passport, and that you guys were one of the original institutions. Now, I know you weren't the executive director when it first
Right.
begun, but over the years, how have you seen it develop?
Well, it's developed under the leadership. We've got some really good leadership on the board, and I know Tim Kuhnlein is the president right now. He is really pulling together and adding energy to the organization in connecting with Denise Klein through the U.S. Heritage Route 23 website. Working with those people to combine those two has opened up just a wide range of connections up the US 23 corridor from Standish to Mackinac. So it's pulled in all of those cultural institutions, allowing them to network with our region, Alpena, and say what's going on, bringing in artists, bringing in other activities. And so it's just, they're welcome to come to board meetings. They're welcome to participate from the regional site. If they can't make the board meetings, they themselves can go into this website and simply input all of their information.
Okay.
And so, and it's at no charge.
Yeah, that's
so
fantastic.
really, with marketing and advertising being one of the major expenses to nonprofit organizations like Besser
yeah.
Museum or Thunder Bay Art in the Loft, having that resource is very beneficial.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about how people come from out of state. Can you talk a little bit more locally? I know that you had said earlier a little bit, like a vacation kind of closer to home type of thing.
Yes,
So
yes.
talk about that a little bit.
Well, when U.S. Discovery Heritage Route, and I know I keep saying that wrong, I think it's actually Discover Heritage US 23.
Okay.
When that first launched, it was just so exciting. I shared it with everyone because if you go onto that website, you can plan a vacation. I'm sure most people, if they went on and clicked on Alpena and started seeing all the things that are listed under activities, hiking trails, bird watching, canoeing, wineries, just everything there. There's probably so much in this community that people who have lived here for pretty much their whole life are unaware of. And so then you start clicking around to maybe Presqu'île or Sheboygan or Ioscoda. You can plan a day trip and do some really amazing things. So it's not just for the tourists coming out of town, it's for being able to vacation close to home. And sharing that with visitors that come into the museum, even the ones that live right here, are very appreciative because they're like, I know what I'm going to do with my family next weekend. So it is one of the best tools, I think, to promote education, to promote culture, and to promote pride in our own community.
Absolutely. And why do you think it's so important for, this might seem like a simple question, but for those who do live in the community and they might say, well, I don't need to see that stuff. Why is it important for, for you to immerse yourself in your own community's art and culture?
Being part of a community, I think, is extremely important to feel connected and also for personal growth. So take, for instance, the Alpena Lifelong Learners. They are a group of people that frequent the museum, the library, the Thunder Bay Arts Culture, and when you see these lifelong learners really engaged in sharing and learning and stimulating. It's like people do that. You need to get off the couch and go out and get into your community
course, yeah.
and live. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, how has this really helped Besser? Can you talk a little bit about that? You said that you have a lot of people that actually
Right.
come in and say, you know, we went on this website and we saw this. Have you seen? So you've seen an influx of people like come in, more
Definitely.
people?
This summer especially, we've seen more tourists, out-of-state tourists, and local, like Northeast Michigan tourists. We've seen people coming from the west side of the state. And like I said, when we asked them, have you heard about the Discovery U.S. Heritage Road? Have you seen the art trail? Because now they're combined. That's how they found us, is on that website. So if other cultural institutions up US 23 corridor are not involved, I would really encourage them to get on board because it
Definitely.
is a great tool and people are using it and it's bringing them to our location. It truly is.
Yeah, it really sounds like it. And that's fantastic when you have something like that, you know, because with a wide area, when you have
Right.
one thing that you can go to, that's really great. And my last question for you, Chris, is, you know, what do you hope to see in the future? Where do you hope to see that this develops and takes Besser Museum, so to speak?
Well, not just Besser Museum, but for all of Northeast Michigan and for all the places in Alpena and up and down the corridor. I know with the combined efforts with the US 23 Heritage Route and the art trail being on the web, it really has a national and a worldwide impact. And so it's not limited just to our region. It really is drawing people from across the state, across the country, and possibly across the world. So that's what I think the whole group is hoping to see. And then people identify this region as some place to come to really enjoy culture and something different, something unique that you can
Fantastic.
only find in Northeast Michigan.
That's wonderful, and that's what it's all about, you know, bringing
Yes.
people to Northeast Michigan. So thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. And when we come back, we'll be joined again by Tim Kuhnlein to talk a little bit about more of the values of MACNY. Welcome back, everybody. We're here again with Tim Kuhnlein, the president of MACNY. We're going to talk a little bit more about the actual website. Thanks for joining us, Tim. And
pleasure.
can we talk a little bit more about the Art Town and the MACNY website collaboration?
Sure. I think the best place to start is the web address is arttownmichigan.org, ARTOWN Michigan.org. That's if you want to get directly to the arts and culture related stuff. Or you could go to heritage23.com. That's the easiest way to get to the Heritage Trail.
Okay.
Heritage23.com. And when you get there, if you go to the Heritage Trail first, you'll get access to a whole smattering of different destinations or assets in our region, not just arts and culture, but hotels, blueways, byways, hiking trails, the restaurants and things like this. It's really quite a broad selection of destinations. And then you can go into those particular areas and find specific organizations. In the case of arts, culture, and history, you can get to those list of assets via that website, or you could go
Okay.
directly to it via the arttownmichigan.org site.
Okay.
When you get there, basically you have an opportunity to look at not only what the organizations are that have galleries or theaters or whatever, but you can almost it's like a mini website within for each of those organizations.
Okay.
And then also off to the side is a calendar, a continuously updated real-time calendar of what those organizations are sponsoring month by month. So those are the main functions of it. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. You can plan a trip. This is mainly for people coming from outside the region. They can plan their weekend or their week-long destinations.
Okay.
Campgrounds, all that stuff is part of this as
That's
well.
awesome. That's awesome. And I know that I was looking a little bit out the website, and you can see some history of Art Town. Actually, if you look right here, this is what the website header looks like. It says Art Town. This right here says, you know, about Art Town, Michigan, about MACNY. So you can read a little bit more about that, and that's great. So people kind of know a little bit more about the background of it. You think so?
And then we also have there's a Facebook link and continuous blogging opportunities. so people can talk about the experiences that they're having at some of these events, and then that's available to potential consumers of various venues to kind of get a sense of what they'd be getting into.
Okay, and you know, is the website easy to use?
It's very easy to use. From the public side, I would say it's very colorful, lots of video and photo imagery, and easy to connect links. I think from the side of the arts organizations that are trying to get their information up, we're actually planning a training session. We have already 100 organizations identified
wow.
just in arts and culture up and down the 23 corridor. And most of them already have an account listed on the website, and they're already publishing their events in the calendar. But we're planning a training session first in Tawas, actually Gildner Gallery up in Sheboygan on October 3rd from 6 to 8. And then the following week at Tawas Bay Art Gallery on October 10th from 6 to 8. And this is for organizations interested in more fully engaging this process, learning how to use the website from the backside to get themselves represented. And this is all free. This is the great thing about it.
Absolutely, yeah, because that's obviously a struggle for nonprofits is when there's fees.
That's right, and I should say thanks to NEMCOG, the Northeast Michigan Council of Government, a number of state funding sources, grants, and of course Denise Klein's efforts. She's spearheading the whole project. So
that's wonderful, and you know, I think that's great that there's this, you know, one spot. Once again, I've said this a couple times, but there is that one spot that all these organizations can go, and you know, with travel in Northeast Michigan, it's much easier, you know, for them to have this. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, where you want it to go and how you hope it takes off?
Yeah, and this is our biggest challenge now, and I think it's the challenge of a number of organizations. You know, we've got a lot of really valuable community calendars. The Alpena News, for example, our local chamber and several chambers, the CVB, we all have our calendars. And the challenge is the duplication and the amount of energy invested in getting the proper dates in the proper places and consistently distributed across all these access points. And so I think our focus right now as MACNY is figuring out how to sort of foster the circularity of interconnectivity among these various sources. And the merging of Art Town with the Heritage Trail is one example, but we can see where this could go with the chamber calendar, with the community calendar, the Alpena News, and so on and so forth, so that we create the consistency, the broad perspective of what is being offered, so we can kind of plan around what's already been planned, and maximize our potential, not only in what's available, but how well it's disseminated to the public as access points.
Okay, yeah, and a little bit, Chris was talking about this as well, you know, when there's a big list of things, you know, so there's not overlapping in organizations. So it also helps, you know, organizations help organizations. So talk a little bit about that and the teamwork.
Well, part of the cross-promotion that we're really about as a MACNY umbrella, we're not doing anything but fostering what the organizations are already doing and helping them understand the value of doing certain things. And one of the big things right now is to get people to realize the value of placing links to these sources on their websites and cross-linking, so that and making it very visible and very obvious, so that the circularity is there. And at some point, maybe we can get the consistency of data that's inputted to these access points to our community more fully developed. So, for example, Besser Museum has done a very good job of highlighting not only other individual organizations on their website and the links to those websites, but the Art Trail, the Chamber, and so forth. And we need to get the reverse direction as much as possible.
Absolutely. And just to show viewers an example, I have this list. This is what it would look like if you went to the website to search. Kind of like this. You can see, you know, you can go and you can see all of the different organizations and what they're holding and events that they have. So it's really great for, you know, people to get out in the community and to be able to, you know, see what's going on. And the website, you said, it's really easy to use, right?
Yeah, very easy to use.
So that's great. And, you know, what do you hope, other than more organizations coming, how do you hope this develops in the community?
Well, I think we need to increase the volume of the people who are using the system to engage it more fully, whether it's the provider or the consumer. And then I think the next big thing is to, in other words, get more events listed and fully developed. But I think the next big thing is to broaden this notion of interorganizational collaboration, and even outside the arts community itself, but realizing how this site needs to be linked with Chamber Site and other major community organizations.
Absolutely.
In a circular sort of access.
Absolutely, yeah, community efforts, it's very important. So, well, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us, Tim.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 11 for our next edition of Insights.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.